Hello, this will be a video on how to make advanced challenges with scripts, basically teaching you how to make scripts. I'm kinda lazy to edit the video and make it shorter, so this will be like me talking to a friend and explaining it to him. It will probably be very long, I don't know. So you will need to know basics of programming in order to follow this, because if I were to explain everything from the beginning of how everything works, programming in general, it would be even longer. So what you need to know is variables, what are they, functions, integers, floats, strings, basically the basics like that, which you can learn from any programming language, I think. Because this programming language is Squirrel and it's very easy to compare to others. So it basically only has the basics which the programming languages, which other ones have. Okay, what else? I think that's it. We can start. So what does vscripting do in general? If I were to explain it, I would say that with it you either change, create, or destroy or kill, in other words, entities. And that's kinda it. That's the entire thing which you will be doing. And what are entities? They are things, objects which can be changed. Sounds quite easy, doesn't it? Okay, maybe we can give examples. If we go in game, marines are entities because they can change their position, their velocity, their health, I don't know. Basically, they have properties which can be changed. Aryans are obviously entities also. Then on maps you can see things like barrels, physics objects, those are entities. Hacks, triggers. If you're a mapper, it will help a lot for you to understand more about scripting and about entities. Then you're already gonna be knowing that they have key values, which are basically properties, in other words. Okay, I just went in the game, but I actually explained everything. There's nothing more to show, but that's good, because I will be needing the in-game later on, probably. Okay, so in this tutorial I will not show you where to place the script file. I think I made it clear in my previous one, you can watch that. So basically it's a .NET file. The easiest way you can just start making the challenges, you can go to your active drop folder, scripts, vscripts, and you can change the challenge, I think energy weapons. You can just delete everything here and just start coding your thing. And then if you go in game, we can just put the energy weapons challenge. Let's save this, of course. Reload you start the mission and it will take place right away. As you can see, there's not energy weapons anymore. And if you change stuff, you can just reload the game and it will change. The script will be renewed and my game should crash. Oh, it was different way. It was like this or something. Yeah, very nice. So that's the easiest way to just go and start making it, or you can make a separate challenge like I will do here, and I'll be coding there. Okay, so first off, what you will need to do to make your idea work is you will need to, first thing, find out when to run your code, and the second thing, what code to run. Maybe it doesn't make sense now, for now, but it will make sense later when I give examples. But most of the time, from my experience, it's harder to figure out when to run your code instead of what code to run. So that's one thing. Okay, if you just start typing code here, like I don't know, println1, this will run when you press the start mission button. This challenge where I'm coding is called whatever I'm testing right now. So you press start mission and this runs. This is the earliest you can get your code to run. You cannot run your code in the lobby right here. Maybe you can, but that's too complicated for now. Not in a way you would think, anyway. So that's the earliest you can get your code to run. Okay, next thing is there are functions which get called by the game. So for example, if you make a function called onMissionStart, this is how we make functions in Squirrel. You just type function, name of it, brackets, yeah, basic. So this code will also run when mission starts. Let's see the time when it gets run actually. You can debug your code like this. So what I'm doing here is I'm gonna print 1 and the time when this gets run, and 2 and the time when this gets run. I'm adding the strings. This will be converted automatically to a string, but in other it will only work in println function. In other functions you will have to do like this to string, so you should probably get used to that for now. So let's see what happens. Reload your game, of course, because you made changes. So yeah, first this gets run, then this. Then we can see the time, how much the mission has been enabled for. Instant restarting doesn't change this time. It's kinda useful in the future, this time function. Okay, other functions that you have is on gameplay start, which is a very important and very popular function to be used. It sounds kinda the same on gameplay start and on mission start, you know, but the main difference is that on gameplay start gets run 0.5 seconds after on mission start. And what does that do? Marines get created 0.5 seconds after mission start. So if you try to change Marines here, change anything related to them, this is where you should do it, because if you try to do it like here, typing here, you try to find Marines, try to change anything with them, or also here, it will not work because they just don't exist yet. So this is the earliest you can start changing Marine properties. Let's see that it's actually 0.5 seconds. Yeah, as you can see. Okay, what else? There are other, not just functions which get called at a certain time, but functions which can change things. So one of the most popular things is, let's see, where is it? Take damage. Okay, maybe here. This function, take damage alive any. In this function you get handles of the victim, inflictor, attacker, all that stuff, and you can change the damage they receive. So this function gets called whenever any entity with health, I mean except doors, except brush entities, only aliens I think and marines, to be honest. This gets called when they take damage, and you can override the damage by returning the value you want the damage to be. So if I just do this, then nothing in the game will take any damage. Like I try to damage myself or try to damage any aliens, none of them will be able to damage me, or I will be able to damage them. I mean, it still plays the damage effects. And you can... Okay, maybe we'll return to this later. because there's still things you don't know. What about handles? What are they? So I will explain this soon. Okay, another functions you can have are event functions. I think I saw just one here. For example, on game event marine hurt. This gets run when the marine gets hurt, and there are so many of them. Let's see, I think I made a list of events. Yeah, there's a lot of them. Sentry rotated, various things. Ammo pickup maybe is fun. Or weapon fire. Let's do weapon fire. I will have an example of what you can do with it later. So the way you make the an event function, you just write on game event, then the lower thing, whatever it's called, and the name of the event, and in the parameters you put params. This is a table, and we will get to it later. Basically, yeah, for now you need to know you can have code run whenever a weapon fires, and you can not only have it the debugging in console, you can have it in chat if you want. You need to type it like this. So now whenever I fire a weapon it will type in chat. Yeah, as you can see, chainsaw fires like, how much is it? 30 times per second? No, I think that's not real, to be honest. I think it... yeah, it doesn't really fire 30 times per second. It's just the function doing something. Yeah, it's actually 60 times per second. If we think this is real, but I think this just only counts when you hold your button. It also, for example, for some reason fires the weapon fire event. Another example I can give you is with ammo box. If I just hold, you see. So this is not entirely real with some weapons. If I remember correctly, with Tesla it's also kinda bad. But with other weapons like, I don't know, let's see, marksman rifle. Yeah, with Tesla it's also doesn't show you, doesn't fire correctly. It's about this one. Yeah, this one is correct, because it's not 60 times per second, whatever the tick rate is. Okay, so that's one thing we will have to know. So I think we went through the functions. Now we need to know how to change the entities, right? You kinda need to know that now. So let's do something on gameplay start when the marines spawn. Let's for example make all of them have 1 health. So like a 1-hit challenge, real one. So the way you get the handle is you will usually use something like this. Let's create a variable which stores the handle. You do entities, find by class name, then null for now. I'll explain later why. And you will get the marine here, but only one of them. Okay, let's see. So first, this is the name of the variable. Usually what we do is you can call it whatever you want, but to make it more intuitive we put the H to make sure people know that it's a handle who read the code and make it easier to read. And then the name of the handle, whatever you're gonna store there. Okay, this thing is like a constant class from which you can get information and change more entities, things like that. Find by class name is a function which this class has. And here's the parameters that we put into this function. So basically we find an entity which has the class name SW Marine, and you will kinda have to memorize a lot of entities. For example, you could find player and other stuff, I don't know, game rules. So I think there's a list of entities if you Google it for Alien Swarm. So let's find the marine now, and we can change its properties by doing the name of the variable dot and then calling a function, for example. So this marine handle has a function called setHealth, and we're gonna be using it, setting its health to 1. Let's see. Let's add a bot so you will see that it will not work on the bot. So yeah, now I have 1 health and the bot has full health because we only did it for 1 marine, we only found 1 marine. Now we can also do set max health so it will look cooler. Double kill. So I just looks like I'm on full health, but I'm on 1 health. Yes. Okay, now how do we change all marines? This is done by a famous loop, the while, where we use this in the while loop. So okay, let me type it and then explain it maybe. So okay, maybe I should make it more intuitive for now. So first we make a marine variable which is null, which doesn't have a marine stored in it. Then we can do let's do while 1. Maybe this will be a little bit easier to understand for now. So basically, for now, run this loop forever. And if you do this, actually, your game will just freeze and you'll have to restart it. Okay, so we find the marine. Okay. And then if it doesn't exist, we break the loop. Okay, so this is one of the ways you can loop through all marines. Let's change actually the health again so you see it works. Oh, we can just copy paste this. This looks a little bit complicated for now, but I hope I will explain it pretty good so you understand. Let's see if it works first. That's what I always do, just check if it works. Yeah, they're all on 1 health. Strange, they just don't die immediately. Probably deal less than 1 friendly fire on normal or something. I don't know. Okay, so what we are doing is we're using a loop. We're finding the marine, right? We found 1 marine. Okay, let me make something. So okay, so what you need to know is that all entities have a number attached to them. When they spawn, they get a unique number. The entities which spawn later get a higher number, and there's like a huge entity list, which basically this thing actually is. You can access all the entities, and I only typed 5 random ones, but there's like hundreds, maybe even thousands on maps, on some maps. And what this thing does is we find the first one. Let's say there are many more entities here, right? Many other there. We find the first one. You can actually check the number of the entity itself. Let's see. So I have 3 marines. Yeah, 43, 47, 51. So we find the first one. We send null here, which means that this is basically where to start the search from, right? So if we send null, which we are doing the first time, starts from 0. For example, world is 0, right? So we start from the very first entity. We just this function goes down the list until it finds the ASW marine class entity. We get it, right? We change it, and then in the second iteration of the loop, we send this one as where to start the search from, and it searches from here, goes to the next one, finds the next one. We have the handle of it now. Then we change it, of course. Then the next loop, next iteration, we start from this point. So if I put null here, it will always start the search from 0, and it will just keep finding this marine, keep changing it, keep finding this one again, keep changing it. It will not get to other marines, and this loop will run forever. Let's see, my game should freeze. Yes, it froze and it terminated the script by itself, which is cool. Spammed my console, of course. So don't be afraid to make infinite loops or anything, to be honest, because there's a thing which protects you from exploding your computer. So yeah, we're sending a handle here. This is not a number that we're sending, even though I made it look like it's a number that we're sending. But it basically, internally, it gets the number, it gets this number, starts from this number, but we need to send a handle. And let me just show you what happens when we try to print a handle, which is also good for debugging. You can check if a thing is null or not. Yeah, when you try to print a handle, it just prints something like this, the number itself also, which is the entity number, the class, and the name of the entity. Name is something, it's not the class name, it's just a name, a mapper, or the game usually gives to entities. Usually they're without a name. It doesn't matter for now. So yeah, then we get to the end of the list when there's no more marines. It sends, you send the last one, for example. Then it tries to find more, but it doesn't, so it returns null. And when you don't have more marines, we leave the loop. Now what's the easiest way to type this loop, and how is it being typed usually, is we put this thing already inside the loop, argument or whatever. Yes. And we don't need this also, I think. Yes. Because it already checks it here. If you know programming, if you know the basics, you'll probably understand this. But we basically make the assignment of a variable and checking if it's valid or not in the same line, basically. You could also type it like that, while this doesn't equal null. We used to type it like that. Maybe makes it more intuitive for you, but without it, it's basically exactly the same. It's already checking, it's assigning a variable to a new value and then checking if it's null or not. Okay, let's see if it works. Yeah, all of us have 1 HP. Okay, what's next on the list? Handles. So what else can we do instead of not only marines? We could try... Okay, let's try an actual example of what you can do, what challenge you can make. So let's say I wanna make marines get ignited from aliens which are on fire and which are close to them. Right? So if basically there is an alien which is burning close to a marine, then the marine also gets ignited. That could be an interesting thing. So what's the way you can do that? First we need to keep searching for aliens, searching whether there are marines near them, right? And then using all the conditions, checking all the conditions, like whether the marine is close enough and whether the alien is burning. So what we can use is the function I didn't mention, I forgot to mention, the update function, which is very useful. Basically, it just gets run all the time, depending on what value you return. So if I return 0.5, it gets run every 0.5 seconds. We can check that. Yes. Of course you can make it smaller, then it will run faster. You can have conditions. If I don't know, 5 you can, or 4 I mean, you can make it run slower. And when you don't want it to run anymore, you could put some high value maybe. I'm not sure if -1 works. Let's see. I'm interested also, to be honest. What will happen with -1? Okay, so it doesn't work, it just runs as fast as possible with -1. So we can use that, to be honest. Sounds useful. Or I think 0 also, let's see, maybe 0. I'm kinda getting off topic here. Yeah. So it basically gets run what the tick rate is, which is currently 60. Yeah, it's gonna be around 60 times per second. But anyway, we're gonna use the same thing here. Now, question is it better to check marines and find whether there are aliens close to them, or check aliens and find whether there are marines close to them? I think for now it's easier with marines. So we're gonna do the exact same thing, we're gonna loop through all marines, and we're gonna do logic here inside the loop, so that all the marines, basically that's for all the marines. What we're gonna do is we're gonna first try to find if there's any aliens close to the marine. How are we gonna do that? We could also make another loop. And here we could have ASW drone, for example. First check drones. Yeah, don't also forget to change here. We could get the marine position with let's say it's effect marine position, get origin, so now we get the positions of the alien and the marine, and we could do some mathematics to check if they're close enough, right? That's one way to do it, but there's always in scripting or in programming many ways to do one thing, and most of the time there's easier ways. So what we can do here instead is we can use a function which is, let's see, yes, this is a useful site, by the way, with a lot of functions. I forgot to mention that, should have probably mentioned that. Find by class name within, and let's see, we as always first send the handle, then the class name, then the origin and the radius, right? So the origin is gonna be the place where you want to start checking where there are aliens nearby. In our case it's at the origin of the marine, so we do get origin. It's just the coordinates, this origin thing, this origin guy, XYZ, right? And the radius, let's check in the radius. I don't know, this depends now. The radius we put depends how close the marine has to be to a burning alien to start also burning. So let's do 64. If you're a mapper, you're gonna know these values. If you're not a mapper, it's gonna be hard for you to understand the distances. But basically the height of the marine, I think, is 64 units. Then distance from here to there is probably around, I don't know, maybe 400, 500 units. So to get for you to get the scale. Okay, so here we are only searching for drones, right? And you might think what we will need to do is just many of these loops, first drones, then boomers. Or maybe you just only want drones, you could only do it for drones, but let's do it for all the aliens. What we can do is we can put a star here, which will make it loop through all the entities, not only aliens, right? For example, it will get the world, you will have world here, you will have marines, other marines will have barrels, doors, if they're close enough, of course. 64 units close. And what we do is we can filter, we can find if it's an alien with a function, which is if h alien is alien, I think it's called, let's see. Is alien, right? Yeah. Whether the handle belongs to an alien class. If it's an alien, we do this thing where we search if it's on fire and we make the marine on fire. And how I usually write code is I return whether it's not an alien. I mean, not return, maybe a break of the loop. And then I write code here, so less nesting. If you're a programmer, you're gonna understand this probably. But it doesn't matter whether you do it like that or the way I did before. So if it's an alien, if it's not an alien, we don't do anything to it. And now from here we all from here all H alien are actual aliens. Because before this here it could be not an alien. Okay, so how do we check if it's on fire? Okay, maybe to summarize for now, what we have done is we have found all the aliens which are close to a marine. And now we need to do something with them. What we do is need to check if the alien is on fire, and if we check these functions here on fire, I don't think there is a function for that with which we can check. And in this case we will need to use netprops, which is another quite complicated theme topic. Basically, netprops are properties of entities which are being sent from server to client, and whether the alien is on fire is one of them. And there's a lot of these properties actually. The way you can find which netprops various handles have is let's see, I don't remember from the top of my head, but here's all the functions the netprop manager has. So we will use getTable. Now we will only use this once to find the netprop we want, then we will obviously not be finding all the netprops later. Okay, well, maybe this is a little bit complicated for now, but wait, let me write it at least, because I don't know myself for now. Okay, we do prop type. It doesn't matter, prop type. Okay, so gonna do this once now. Gonna get close to an alien, and it should print the netprop table of it. It doesn't, because wait. Okay, so we have a case here where code doesn't work, and now we need to debug it, right? So let's go through it. I maybe didn't put the return, maybe you need the return. Let's see. So maybe this function did get run at all. That could be the case. No. It's okay. Maybe it doesn't find the alien. If it's not an alien, break. Okay, so I think this is the problem, because I don't need to break, I need to continue searching for other aliens, right? Yes. So what the issue was, it was finding only one entity near the marine. It was not an alien, it was just not continuing the search for other entities. Basic what do you call it? Basic mistake from me. Okay, so now we have a lot of netprops. As you can see, there's a lot of them. These are basically all the properties which aliens have, and most of these are gonna be similar to other entities like marines. They gonna have also similar properties. Let's paste it in. So on fire there might be something there. MB on fire. This is the net property we can use. You can see it also has properties like walking, which is false, which is strange. I mean, most of these are not gonna probably be used at all. What other things we have? We have weight, how much it weighs. Fat ass, 85 tons. or something. Pounds. I don't know. Still fat ass alien. It has health. Probably already when it died this got printed. That's why it's negative. Speed scale, as you can see, can also be changed. Glow color, I'm not sure if it will do anything. So yeah, basically there's a lot of stuff which can be changed to an alien with netprops. We only need for now the on fire, so this can be removed. I already saw what netprops do we have. So how do we check if this alien is on fire? Of course also with if. We do the netprops class, get prop bool, it's a boolean, the alien which has the netprop, and on fire. So if this returns true, you could also type it like this, for those who don't know, but we don't need this, already checks. So here, if we found an alien which is close to marine and this alien is on fire, we just simply ignite the marine, right? There is a function, ignite, and let's ignite him for 1 second. Let's see if that worked. Not getting ignited. And now we did get ignited. And we also had just 1 health, so we died immediately. Okay, and the next problem, which is kinda hard to realize. Okay, I need 1 alien, come on. Wait. Oh, we just got it right now. As you can see, we ignite an alien, we kill it, it's dead, we go where it was, we still get ignited. This is because when an entity like a marine or alien dies, it still exists, but it's invisible. That's also the reason why we got this table where it had negative health. So it still exists after it dies for a little bit. And how we can solve this is we can check whether it's dead simply by if get health is higher than 0, then we also ignite the marine, right? And now this shouldn't happen.
Wanna play a little game?
Yeah, we didn't get ignited. So that's one thing to notice for the future. Okay, so we have created what we wanted, and we haven't used any of these event functions. We basically created our own event, you can say. So instead we could put, for example, or we could make our own function, marine close to burning alien. Yeah, so as I said, we just basically created our own event function, and I just created a separate function for that to make the code more organized, more understandable. We could change code here in the future, put more code instead of here, and people who are gonna be reading this, or if you're gonna be reading this in the future, are gonna understand it better. But usually for easier things you're gonna be using event functions which already are defined in the game. They're way easier. For example, you could detect whether a marine takes damage with an event function, or you could detect it in here and make a separate event function. It's just easier to already work with things which have been defined. That makes sense. So for example, weapon fire, right? This is a good example. We could also make this update loop which finds marines and which checks their netprops whether they're firing, and then do things. Or we could just type this function which already exists, right? Okay, next thing is maybe I should tell you about these tables, right? Which are used mostly by the event functions like this. So this params, it doesn't actually matter how you call it. Table params, I don't know. It's just the params is just what we used to now. So what is a table? If you know programming and you know arrays, this is very similar, except it's basically an array which you can index not just with numbers, but with anything, basically handles, strings, things like that. So if you maybe saw me here creating a table, but you basically do it like this, similar to arrays. If it was an array, it would be like that. The arrays also exist here. So, for example, we can put index it by a string and put a value in it. Let's see if this works. So with arrays it would be normal, like we could put integers as indexes, but the only difference is we can index it with anything, even entities. Maybe I should even make it as an example. So here we're even gonna find a random marine and put a value to the table, you know? And let's see if it works. Now we need, of course, the marine itself again. I think it's better to store it as a separate variable, but for now we're gonna have it like this, which is probably also gonna work. Let's see, it should print 4 and 8 in the console whenever we fire a weapon. Okay, now we encountered an error. The index high doesn't exist, because I think you need to not do it like this, but like this. For tables, I don't remember, to be honest. Yeah. So instead of the usual assignment operator, do it like that. And I wonder if this creates a new table. Global one. Anyway. I think I explained this very poorly. But basically, if you know programming, tables are like arrays, which you can not only index by numbers, but by anything. Okay, and these event functions send the tables with various information in them. You can check the information that they have here. For example, this one sends the entity index of the marine and the weapon. Entity index is these numbers which I talked about earlier. So from that information you can find out who fired the weapon and the weapon itself. So let's create a variable for that. We access it like this. And wait, what was the name? Just Marine. So what we will get now is just an integer, not the handle. We will get this number stored in the hMarine variable. And how do we convert this number to an entity? We use endIndex by endIndex. No, and wait. I don't remember. And index to handle script, yeah. Just copy paste that. So this function is useful. It converts numbers like this to actual handles, right? So now we have the Marine, which shot. Let's type that, even in chat maybe. Let's type who shot, which class, and the way we get the Marine class is just usually when you don't know something, go to this website, find the Marine. Where is the Marine? I think it's inhabitable NPC. Yeah. So get Marine name. Deprecated returns translated Marine name. Okay, maybe let's use that for now, whatever. Get Marine name. Fired, put space here. Fired a weapon. Oh my god. Let's see what this does. It's also add a bot. Vegas fired the weapon. Sarge fired the weapon. So yes. Now I can maybe show you an example how to create entities. What if we want to create a boomer blob which gets like shot from your weapon when you fire any weapon, or maybe you want it when it fires a specific weapon? We can make that. So boomer blob. We do that by entities that create by class name, and the class name of the boomer blob is ASW boomer blob. I just remember it from memory. But you can find out if you Google entity names, alien swarm or something. So right now we basically created it, but not spawned yet. So you need to spawn it. Boomer blob. Otherwise it will not work. And also activate it. What this activate does is basically developers which coded these entities made them do something when they're activated, and you should usually just do that. Otherwise your game may crash. I've seen cases like that recently even, where people don't do this activate function, the game crashes. But it's not necessary for all entities, but just always do basically these two things when you create entities. Then we can change the properties. So we created an entity, right? And where is it? It gets created by default in the position 000 in the world, I think. So we actually need to also spawn it, move it to the correct location. So for now we want to move it where the Marine is, right? So we do set origin hMarine.get origin. For now let's just test it. Then we will do other changes later, which is a good practice to test it. So as you can see, we just create boomer blobs at our feet now. Maybe we want to make them like fly in the direction we're looking, right? Would be cool. So what we will do is we will set the velocity of them, and also as you can see it spawns at our feet. What if we want to spawn it a little bit higher? What we do is mathematics, we make a new vector and add it. So upwards is z, so we just add like 32 to z. Let me print you the origin so you understand better what it looks like, maybe. We can also put it in a variable, vec boomer blob position. So we're gonna print the vector, and we're gonna need to use toString for it, otherwise you will have an error here. Let's see.
Wanna play a little game?
Creating boomer blob at this coordinates, right? So as you can see, just a little bit in the air when we fire the weapon, right? So that's what this thing did. Another way to edit vectors, I mean, you probably don't know what vectors are yet, right? It's just an array of 3 numbers. It has the x value, it has the y and z. We could just do like that, z plus equals 32.0, right? And this should also work. I'm sorry if I'm not explaining things in greater detail, but if you know programming, you should know these things, understand them easily. Okay, so that's what the origin is and vectors are. Now let's set the velocity of the boomer blob. First we need to like know where the marine is looking, right? And then this is just basically gonna be trigonometry or something. So yeah, in scripting there's a lot of mathematics usually, especially with things like this. So usually you just store things in variables. Marine look. Wait, it's gonna be an angle, so yeah, wait, yeah, marine look direction is that marine get angles. So we can also print that to see what it looks like. Marine looking direction.
Ready.
As you can see, only the y, which is yaw, changes. So we could change this. We could only get the y, which we need. So now we have the marine look angle. And then, if you know mathematics, what we can do is get like the velocity from an angle. I have it somewhere here, the method. I will not find it. Wait, I think it's vector from angles. Normalized vector from angles, okay. Just copy paste this mathematic bullshit. Boomer blob velocity. It needs vector angles, motherfucker. Okay, so we get the normalized. Is this even gonna be correct? I don't know, let's see. Get the normalized value, which we need to multiply, and this value by which we multiply will be the velocity, the speed of the boomer blob. So let's make it speed 128 units per second. So now that we have the boomer blob velocity, we need to set its velocity. H boomer blob, set velocity. This probably all doesn't make sense, to be honest to you, but I'm just making an example for now.
Wanna play a little game?
Nice, doesn't work because okay, so when things don't work, very first thing you should do is just look in console. And if you see things like that, this means that there was an error and your code didn't even run, or maybe, I mean, it did run, but it stopped running at all, didn't get to some point. And here it prints the line where an error happened, so line 88, which is here. And the problem is, it says this function doesn't exist because I forgot to also copy paste it. Now should work.
Ready.
Yeah, so as you can see, we're sending the boomer blobs with a velocity 128, no errors, right? But its velocity is kinda small. I don't know why. For me, I don't feel like it's fast enough.
Ready.
Yeah, this is better. And okay, so I've done a lot of mathematics here, which is, you probably didn't understand anything. That's alright, because that was not the main point. The main point was to show that you can change things, and if you know how to do mathematics and stuff like that, you can do it. Like this, with set velocity. Now, this will fire boomer blobs with any weapon, and let's go back to the chainsaw. And my game will probably crash. Or not. So now, another thing. What if you want to make it happen not only with all weapons, but some specific weapon? Like, I don't know. Which weapon can we choose? Twin pistols, maybe? Useless weapon. Maybe not nowadays, but let's do it with twin pistols. So, as you can remember, we also have the end index of the weapon here. What we can do is we can get the weapon. And now, if the weapon class name is twin pistols, Then we basically run all this, right? That's how you could code it, but I'm gonna do it like if it's not twin pistols, then we return, right? I think we need to do it like this. Yes. So now I'm not sure if it's exactly the correct class name. So let's first print the class name. Of the weapon. Let's see. Yeah, it was wrong. ASW weapon twin pistol. Now weapon flamer. Yeah, this no way this was gonna be correct. Pistol, right? Yeah. So now it should only create boomer blobs when we're firing from twin pistols. Let's see. Yeah. Not from the chainsaw or anything else. Yeah. Don't need to spam the console anymore. Okay, so that's one example what you can do. Okay, I think kinda covered everything. I'm not sure if you understand anything or if it's a good tutorial at all. Maybe I just wasted my time on this. Probably still gonna upload this. One more thing maybe which we can touch, which is a little bit more complicated. Is creating, again, finding a way to run your code. So let's say we want to do something when a flare lands. For example, we want to create explosions when the flare lands in its place, right? So there's no such event, flare land or anything like that. What we're gonna do is we're gonna create that event ourselves. So again, using the update function. Now let's say we want both that and the flare thing happening, right, in our challenge. So you could basically just start writing the flare thing here, right? But what if you just have some logic here which somewhere makes it return from the function and you will not get here? What you can do, maybe separate these two things, update, what we actually call them is thinker, to be honest. Thinker, marine igniter, you could call it like that or something. You could put this here and then also have thinker flare exploder. I'm gonna have code here, and here you can call the thinker flare exploder and the thinker marine igniter, so you can separate them like that, which is one of the ways. Another way would be create thinkers in flares themselves. So this doesn't probably tell you anything. I need to give you an example. Okay, so let's have this for now. So this function gets called every tick and this gets called every tick now. Okay, so let's start. Basically, what's the idea? We wanna find out when the flare gets created, like right now, and we wanna wait and find out when it stops moving. Then we like write a function which gets called when it stops moving, right? That's basically the idea of how I want to make it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna loop through all flares. Using also the basic loop through loop. Loop through loop. What? Now, what's the name of the flare? What's the class name? I also don't know now, so I'll show you one of the ways you can. Another way to find out is throw the thing, and then in the console do endfire picker run script code self that we need to print self that get class name. There we go. So basically anything you look at, you will get the class name like that. Bone follower. Nice. This will be a prop physics. This will probably be some trigger. No, probably dynamic. Myself, marine, drone. Didn't get it, but you get the idea. Why doesn't it do any damage? Oh, I think when I'm shooting the weapon, I'm hitting the boomer blob itself. That's why it doesn't do any damage. That's funny. Okay, so what does this do? We're basically running vscript from console right away with this run script code output. And the self here is a handle to the picker, and the picker is the entity we're looking at. Basically we're getting the handle of a prop dynamic in this case and printing its class name. This is very useful to debug things. Yeah. Could also get it like that, I guess. So you can run code from console right away. That's gonna be useful to know. Okay, so let's go back to our idea where we wanna spawn explosives when the flare lands, right? So we're gonna look through all flares, and your idea might be just checking whether the flare has velocity of 0, right? And then doing something to it, which might work. Let's try it. So if flare that get velocity that length equals 0, this that length basically gets the speed, and the velocity is a vector, of course. It's not just a number, it's not a float. So this is the way to get the speed, the actual speed. And let's do, for now, let's just print and debug if this works. Spawning explosive on flare H flare that to string, for example. Let's imagine we would do that there. Yeah, so it gets run 1,000,000 times per second. As you can see now, it's on both flares. There's on a lot of flares now. Wow, why is it so bright? I mean, I know why, because there's flares on it, but still looks weird. Okay, so this kind of works as a detection of when flares have velocity 0. Now, what if we want to spawn explosive only once, like when the flare lands, explode, right? And not just every time, every 60 times per second explode. What we can do basically is, there's many ways to do that, but we can have a array of flares which already exploded, right? we can check if the flare which we are finding is in that array, and if it is, then don't explode anymore. So that's one way. We're gonna make a global array which is seen by all the functions by typing it here. So I know I always prefix it with g flare exploded array, have it empty by default. And now, as a programmer, you could basically loop through the array normally, right? Which we would have to do. But now I'm thinking it's better to use a table here for one exact reason. Okay, let me explain it better. So, if we're gonna use an array, we would need to loop through it through all the indexes with a new loop, and then check whether the handle of the array is there in the array anywhere. But another thing we could do is we could make it a table. Why did I type it as an integer? We could make it a table. Let's name it table also. And we could check simply like this: if hflare in table continue, and we add it to the table like this and assign any value, doesn't matter, 0, 1, whatever. So we made it basically like an opposite of an array. The indexes are now flares in this table, and we check it like this: if this table has such an index. So okay, first when we find a new flare, it will not be in the table, so we put it in the table. Now we need to this is the problem, we need to put it in the table when it already has velocity 0, right? Wait. Yeah, we need to put it in the table when it already stopped. That's where we're gonna do the logic. And now we need to explode. And what's the easiest way to do that? Let's check. Let me check my other challenge. Weapon memory, I think I did it there. In this challenge, what I did is I can actually show it. I made a bomb drop when the flare stops and it explodes the entire universe. So in this challenge, as you can see, I create particles, not only the explosion itself, and I create a bomb, which is a prop which flies down. So there's two particles here. There's, let me count, 1, 2, 3, 4, like 6 entities in total I create from this. First two are the particles, as you can see, these red ones, and then the white ones which were there. Next entity is the bomb, which is a prop. Fourth entity is a thing which moves the bomb, which is a func move linear entity. If you're a mapper, you're gonna know that, because the bomb's not gonna move by itself, you know. Then the next entity is the explosion when the bomb lands. And then the last entity, oh, not the last, there's, as you could see, there was also explosion particles. These are not gonna be created by themselves also, these ones. And the last entity is the fire. So this is kinda complicated. And what we're gonna do is only create these explosion particles maybe. Oh, and another entity is the sound. Yeah. So every detail is a different entity, you could say. Even the sound, the particles, the bomb itself, the way it moves. So it could get kinda complicated. Okay, now let's see how did I make the bomb. Okay, I even labeled it, as you can see. And also used exactly the same thing. Explosion damage. Copy paste lazily. What did I do? How to go back? How to... I remember. Shift? Yeah. Shift tab in Notepad++. So the explosion itself is an entity called ENW explosion. What I do is I set the origin of it. Here we'll need to change, because as I already mentioned, you create an entity, it gets by default created in the origin 000 or something like that. Here we will use the hFlare entity's origin, add a little bit to it for some reason. Magnitude, you could probably look in the map editor in Hammer which other key values entities have, but you could also use the netprops method I showed earlier, where you get the table of all the netprops. So for here I used key value from int, but you could also use the netprops, set prop int, things like that. There will be magnitude there. I do this set name flare bomb damage here, for the reason being that I will later use something with this flare bomb damage here in the onTake damage alive any function. So, oh, I see. So the reason I did that is so I can detect in this function when entities take damage from that bomb, right? And if it's an alien, I just make it take 10,000 damage, so they all die. And when it's a marine, I just make it take less damage, so the marine doesn't die, right? And we're probably gonna have to do it in our challenge also, but we will see. Let's do it without for now. So we spawn it, activate it, and we actually need to explode it manually also. If you're a mapper, you're gonna understand this. So explosion not gonna happen right when it spawns with this entity. We're also gonna have to do this output. Okay, here we're gonna use 0 seconds. Here I also kill it for some reason. I kill it because if we're gonna have a million explosions, these entities are gonna stack up, and it's like a memory leak, but not entirely memory leak. You're gonna drop 1,000 flares, you're gonna have 1,000 entities which stay, useless entities, and you're gonna crash the game, and just in general use a lot of memory, which you don't need to. So we create an explosion, it explodes, and we destroy the explosion, because it doesn't get destroyed by itself. Maybe it actually does, I don't know. So let's see how this explosion looks like. For now it will not have any particles. I'm not sure if it will have even sound. Forgot to change the challenge. So it should explode right away. Okay, we have an error on line 30. Thinker flare exploder. What's the error? Does not exist. Did I type it incorrectly? No. Okay, so for some reason doesn't see this function. Weird. Do we need to type it here? Or did we get any other errors? I doubt that we need to type it there. Oh, we do? Strange. Okay, so we created an explosion, right? But doesn't appear like anything happened. Does it happen? Does it damage aliens? Doesn't look like so. Okay, so the problem probably is with our flares. Maybe this gets run. Okay, let's print again. Flare stopped. Let's debug this. Oh, we get an error on line 28. This is why I need to use this. So it didn't run any code after this line. That's why I didn't find this function. So yeah, if you're gonna define global variables, you're not gonna use this, you're gonna use this thing. That's also something to note. Okay, now it should do damage. Yeah, as you can see, it only does damage from kind of far away. No particles, no sounds. So we're gonna have to create those manually as well. The way I did this is also by creating various entities. This is a lot of code, but it's kinda easy code, so don't worry. It's just spawning the entities, changing their key values, and again, you kinda need to know which key values to change, and it will be very helpful for you to be a mapper. Then it's kinda easy to understand. You already know all of these things. But if you don't know, you can always go on Discord, on our Alien Swarm Reactive Drop Discord, and in modding channel. Here you can ask a lot of questions, and they'll probably all get answered by people who make challenges. Okay, so we first make an info particle system entity, right? Let's see the origin, also using the flare origin. Okay, we make it have this effect, which we need to pre-cache. Let's just add for now all of this. Okay, so what I did was made more global variables, which are strings in this case, names of particles, and we need to pre-cache particles, models, and all that stuff, so our game doesn't crash. And I just made them all in one variable, so I wouldn't have to retype the same name here, and if I want to change it in the future, I just change it here and will pre-cache and create the same one, new one, right? So we spawn it, activate it, and here also change this. Okay, in the sound we don't use any... Oh, we do use... Why? Ah, wait, I do need to use, okay. Okay, let's see if it works. If it doesn't, we're just gonna debug it.
Play a little game.
Oh, the sound is not the one we want to use, but I'm ready to change it now to find a new one. So this explosion sound specifically has a timer to it, and it explodes after, in the sound itself, after 5 seconds. So we would just use a different sound. I wonder why it did explode again. And we also have some errors, by the way, on line 108. So that's why we just had it again, because it didn't get killed. But we also had particles again, didn't we? Okay, so this explosion is kind of big, isn't it? You could change the particles, the sounds, everything. And what if we want this explosion to happen multiple times, right? That's another thing. What we could do, and what I did in my challenge, which is a little bit complicated maybe, is put all of this code into the scope of the flare. What this means, right now all this code that we have is in the scope of the challenge thinker entity, and we basically run everything using the challenge thinker entity. But what we could do is what I did here, this thing. Let's call it explode flare. I'll write this now and explain it soon. I wonder if I can call it like this, I don't remember. Let's see. So now it should explode every 5 seconds, not just once. Okay, there's an error somewhere. Line 117, yeah, I probably can do it like that. So just exactly the same as here, I guess. Oh, I forgot that there's a timer. Okay, so let's see, it explodes once, no it doesn't again. Flare stop, it didn't explode. Okay, I see. So everywhere where we use hflare now, we need to use self again. Because now this code is in the script scope of the flare, we already have the flare in the self. This H flare, I mean, we could write self here, or we could just do it like this. Wait. Like that. Basically the same thing. Gonna make it faster. Didn't work again. Okay, I forgot to put these things. Can't just, that just doesn't do anything. It didn't call the function.
Wanna play a little game?
Okay, another thing is these variables. I'm just gonna make them very global for now. Now those variables will be seen by all the entities in the game. There's still something wrong. Flare stopped. Motherfucker. Does this get called? Why doesn't this get called?
Ready.
Let's see if this gets called or not. Explode flare does get called. What? Okay, maybe we cannot do it like this. Okay, there we go. It explodes once. Should explode again after 5 seconds. Yeah. And it keeps exploding. Now, what do you want to do? Okay, I didn't maybe explain this at all. Basically, we need to do this line first to put something in its... Okay, basically, in general, what this script scope is, all of the things which we typed here are in the scope of an entity called ASW Challenge Thinker. And here we're gonna add code to the flare entity, right? So it's basically just a separate entity in which we will run code. And in this function we typed, it's like a separate function in another entity, right? Explode flare function it's called. And it will not see any of the code we typed. It won't see all these functions, except these ones, which I prefixed with these 2 dots. And I made these variables be seen by all the entities. And it's not a good practice to do that, to be honest. What I could do is just assign this here. Oops, forgot the dot. And this will do exactly the same thing now. But this line right here is exactly the same as this line right here, except in another entity, right? Then this line is which creates a function in this flare entity, then calls this function. Our code calls this function like that, and this function itself in this flare entity calls itself after 5 seconds with this method. Endfire by handle self, run script code, the function, and this is the delay after how much seconds to run the function. Yes, so that's basically it. It's to create more advanced things more easily, because another way to do that would be to maybe have an explode flare function here in the challenge thinker, and we would need to make logic. We would have to remove it again somehow. Okay, let's try it. Maybe in this table, right, which we have with all the flares which have exploded, maybe we could put the time at which they exploded, right? Let's try to get rid of this. And we could check if enough time has passed. We remove it from the, maybe not even remove it from the table, we just explode it again. So if it's in the table and time wait, this is the time when it exploded, right? If plus 5 seconds to this time is lower than actual time, something like that, then we explode again. Maybe this will work. Let's see.
Wanna play a little game?
Either it will explode every second. Yeah. Lucky it didn't happen, because we need to change this back to hflare instead of self. But it was creating explosions where the challenge thinker is located. Because self in this case is the challenge thinker, right? Okay, wait. I'm always struggling with this time. So this is the time when it exploded, for example 1000. When it is higher than current time. No. Wait. Yeah, like that. Let's see.
Ready.
Explodes once. Then after 5 seconds. Okay, so this works, yeah. This is another way. Instead of using stupid get script scope stuff, which is kinda complicated to understand. We can have logic like that, where we save the time in the table instead of some random variable we used before. And when it explodes again, is after 5 seconds have passed. Let's it explode again, this condition right here. And then it sets the time again to when it last exploded. Let's see how it looks like. with this when it explodes 60 times per second. Oh shit. Hmm. Okay, so maybe this tutorial helped you with learning to script. Probably not, because it's just a bunch of bullshit, honestly, which I explained not a lot. Maybe it does help you. And it, how much? How long was this? 2 hours. Oh my god. Okay, so if you have any questions, as I mentioned already, somewhere in the middle, which you probably didn't hear, is any questions, ask them in NS1 Reactive Drop Discord, in the modding channel. People are always gonna help you, even when it's stupid, small questions, whether something doesn't work, or how to make something work. I think there are many people in this community which will help you, definitely. The invite to the server will be in the description, so you can come here. Yes. And that's basically it.